Hello.
Hello and welcome to the candidate question time for activities and education. I'm Alexander Angelov. If you want to ask a question, tweet us at CKT Activities or CKT Education, depending on who you want to ask. First, we have the candidates for education.
Thanks everyone. I'll be moderating this debate. First, we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes opening statements to describe themselves and introduce themselves to you guys. And then there'll be 45 seconds closing statements at the end of the hour, and in between questions from the audience, from social media, and from the online questionnaire. So to start, we've got Katie. Tell us about yourself in 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Schumacher, and I am running for Vice President Education. I have a vision of holistic, dynamic education that's not only inclusive of diversity of our students, but inspires passion within them. The University of Kent has championed these values and principles throughout the years. However, I plan to take it to the next level. I am running for Vice President of Education because I believe that I can make a difference in the lives of students. Education has made a drastic impact on my life thus far, and I hope to invoke similar positive feeling toward education for the students of the University of Kent by being the Vice President Education. 3 primary goals of mine as VP Education are transparency, quality, and inclusivity. Transparency and tuition, so each and every student knows where their hard-earned tuition money is going within the University of Kent. Quality, meaning your timetable, your courses, and your full university experience prepares you in the best way possible for your future. Inclusivity, which means you are learning about the world in which we live. Diversity and intersectionality are not just represented by the members of the University of Kent community, but the curriculum as well. These three themes are important to me specifically because I believe that education is vital to growth and maturity, where skills are developed, relationships are formed, and the students as a whole are discovered. I am determined to do all I can for you as students and get your voice heard, and be as present as possible as I can for you. Because you are the University of Kent, I will work hard for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have Charlie, so another 2 minutes for you to introduce yourself.
I'm Charlie and I'm running to be your VP Education. Over the last 3 years I've been a course rep, a student ambassador, student mentor, and through that I worked at a summer school with incoming students. I'm also part of Students at Medway, so you know, from the amount of stuff I've done, it's obvious that I'm very, very involved in what I do, as well as championing against the proposals to shut SMFA, which relates to education because, you know, it's creative education, it's a different form of education, and it's about making education accessible for everyone. So from there, one of my main points is about tuition fees and pressuring the university to stop raising them because education should be for everyone. I'd like to expand mentoring, I'd like to expand the uni to postgrads, I'd like to work more with reps, and I would like to, you know, make Medway matter as well. Yeah, believe in Bond.
Thank you.
Since 2018. I'm a master's student here at Kent, studying Roman history and archaeology with a Tower One in Rome, which is the reason why I can't be with you tonight. The role of VP Education is perhaps the most important of all the Sabbatical officer roles because of the amount of student lives that it affects. It is vital that we elect someone who is committed and is capable of doing this role. Throughout my years here at Kent, I've been volunteering since the end of my first year, and I've achieved some of the highest volunteering roles available, such as 2 years as president of an academic society, the King Classical Archaeology Society, 2 years as a student rep, and 2 years on the Society's executive, where I represented academic interests to the Kent Union, as well as many more. A vote for me would be a vote for making education and extracurricular activities more affordable for everyone, with easier access to the books, prevention of any further rise to tuition fees, and free academic memberships, free academic society memberships. A vote for me would also be a vote to hold the university accountable when it makes mistakes or tries to enact anti-student policies, such as the previously mentioned rising tuition fees. Because of my experience with Kent Union and my experience with the university through my ambassador roles and my other university-based roles, I believe I'd be able to enact my manifesto more quickly and efficiently. Things would be better with a little better. If you want more details of my manifesto,
Okay, thank you very much, Stuart, who is currently in Rome, but you can still vote for him if you'd like. So back to the candidates in the room. If you could both just, you've already mentioned a bit of it, but if you could both just outline a bit more about your experience, how this has shaped you as a person, and specifically what you'll bring to the role in VP Education. So, Katie, if you'd like to start.
Yes, so I am from the United States. I'm a postgraduate student studying social and applied psychology. My undergraduate degree is a double major in gender studies and psychology. I was also a two-sport athlete in the States. I played basketball and softball. I've held various positions at that university as an admissions assistant, where I worked with many students and administrators and undergraduate students. So I kind of understand the intricacies of how a university works and how to communicate effectively and confidently. I was also a residence life advisor, in RLA as we called it, and I was kind of a bridge between the gap of the students and the staff within the university. So I tended to students' needs and facilitated the wants of the staff. So I developed some interpersonal skills. So I was trained well in helping students in both the classroom and outside. And I was also a student athletic worker where I assisted athletes in training and in care, and I interacted with a wide array of students through various athletics. And obviously I understand that I have only been here for a short time as a postgraduate, but while I've been here, I put a lot of hours in at Mungo's. I work at Mungo's, and I'm also a very active member of the LGBT plus society. So.
Thank you. And the same question to you, Charlie.
I've done a lot, basically, over 3 years. I've been a student rep for my course every year. I've been to pretty much every SSLC meeting, every Learning and Teaching Committee meeting, been involved with the Kent Union staff, getting people's views across and giving back as well, like proposals from staff. So like recently we've had a cafe opened in SMFA, and I learned about that in first year and I took it away and got people's views. I've also been a student ambassador and a mentor, a living mentor at the summer school, as I've already said. So I've engaged with people outside of my repertoire. I met incoming students, showed them life at university, what it's like, and also gave them support they needed at the time, and set them up ready for university. I've been a freshers helper, again meeting new people. I've been treasurer of Music Society, which I know is related to my degree, but it's also engaging with a wider group of people, and students at Medway we've been heavily involved with this year. In terms of education, I think being a rep looks at academic policies and things as well, which has prepared me very well, and everything else has prepared me for interacting with new people that I'm going to have to do at some point in my life anyway, but I'm ready to make that step now.
Thank you. So some more specific questions based on what you guys have submitted for your manifesto. So Katie, you talk about well-being and mindfulness facilities during exam times. Could you just outline what those will be specifically?
Yeah, so we have a yoga society on campus, and we have multiple students and trainers that we offer yoga classes through our sports center. And just from personal experience, I know meditation and yoga are very, very helpful to deal with stress and anxiety. And I think especially during exam times, it would help students a great deal to kind of calm down and relax during all of the stressful time and the studying and revision and everything. So I want to have some sort of option for students across all campuses during exam times, just to relieve stress.
And this would be free, would you say?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Charlie, you talk about the digital rep and how that's been very beneficial. And you say specifically that you want to incentivize usage of it. So what will those incentives be? What would they look like?
Similar to one that was done this year, in that a free meal was offered to a whole school. But I think if I did it, I would have to make it campus specific, which goes against what I believe, that we should have inclusive campuses. But I think that way we'll get more people engaged with it, and then I can tailor incentives such as, I don't know, like food, or a social outing somewhere, like at the dockyard we've got the flip out trampolining place that I know people would be quite happy to go to if all they had to do was fill out digital rep. Things like that to get people involved.
Okay.
Question. Let's see if I can. I'll reach over. I have long arms. So, what's your question?
If the worst was to happen at the end of March, the School of Music, Fine Art is going to be shuttered and just music tech remains, how do you anticipate supporting students through the transition of the school closing?
And is that for both candidates? Yeah.
I've already been really heavily involved in what's going on, so I already have awareness of what's happening, and knowing where to direct people is a good start. Knowing where the wellbeing services, for example, which I know has been very used after what's been said about SMK, and also ensuring that students that don't want to stay for that uncertain period of time where they're reviewing and changing everything have the support they need to go somewhere else should they want to go somewhere else, and making sure that everything is fair and just for them, that they're not made to feel bad in some ways for leaving because it's not their fault what's happening. I would still be very vocally against what would happen, as I already have been.
My response to that is obviously the well-being service, as you just mentioned, would be very helpful to students, and I would say definitely have an open door policy specifically for those students because they do need help in that uncertain period, because uncertainty is not good for any person at that age. It's a lot that they're already uncertain about. And so I definitely think that would be very helpful for them. I do also think that if VP of Education, I would want to communicate with all of the policymakers and a lot of the people that are choosing to close the school, because I think they have to have reasons for doing so, and I think trying to find a compromise would be the ideal situation, and talking to students about all of their options. So having open and effective communication with people. I don't think I'm obviously in a position as VP of Education to decide whether or not it stays open or closed, but I do think that being a facilitator, being able to be a voice of the students to people, the relevant people.
Surely you realise that this is a bit beyond the control of any one union member, and is really something that you talked a lot about tuition fees, and you've come out with a stance against the increase in tuition fees. And you pledged to fight against this in your role as VP Education. Surely you realise that this is a bit beyond the control of anyone.
They would have to listen, and they would have to take into consideration what people think. They can't, the government's meant to be democracy. They can't just completely disregard what every single student union and every single university could potentially be saying.
And also your position as VP Education is based on democracy. So if you're taking a political stance against a national issue, are you finding out first what students as a majority believe in, or are you just using your own personal opinion and then using that to influence your role as VP Education?
Well, I think education's got to be accessible, and if you're just raising fees anyway, it's not going to be accessible for people that can't afford it. So my personal opinion is going to influence it, but obviously I wouldn't just barge ahead. I would have like surveys and stuff to what people think and to people's different backgrounds and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can't be in a role like this if you don't have a personal opinion, because having the opinion of voice.
Because the union says they represent students as well.
They are, but they said they're against it. They're against fees rising.
The union did, students with students as a whole.
So I would undertake surveys to...
Okay, thank you. And Katie, what's your stance on tuition fees? You talked about it being disadvantageous to minorities as well. To expand on that.
I basically said transparency. My undergraduate is one of actually the most expensive schools in the States, and so that was a lot to take in. And so I'm not saying I know where UK students are coming from, because I'm not a UK student, but I definitely think Something that helped me during my undergrad to kind of comprehend paying the amount of money was the quality of the education, and we had our finance department actually come in and give a lecture to a lot of students about where that money is going, so making it completely transparent. So they show when you pay an activities fee, this is exactly where that money is going. And I think that right now the university is kind of lacking in showing students where that's going. So a lot of students keep wondering, like, why is it going up? Why is it going up? And they don't know where it's going. And so I think that that would definitely benefit in every way. As VP of Education, I obviously cannot control, how much University of Kent students are paying, but I can try to figure out where the money is going and show that to students so that they understand why it keeps going up. Because it is a national issue, it's not just a VP of Education issue.
Sure. So what's your plan for actually achieving transparency? What are the mechanisms you'll put in place?
Yeah, communicating with policymakers, university staff, the NUS, figuring out why some students take the stance to boycott the NSS and why some students don't. Basically, just communicating to the proper channels and being able to figure out why, basically get to the bottom of it and how we can maybe implement change.
And this is to both of you as well, but obviously to do some of the things you talked about, you need to build relationships outside of the union and outside of the university as a whole. So where do you think the most important relationships are? Is it the NUS? Is it the local council? Is it the local MP? Where do you think the most important external relationships to make are?
I think starting with the NUS would be very helpful, just because they are tailored to, it's the national union. So if we are the facilitators for students, it would be a very wise option to go to the NUS. I also think that we have a new vice chancellor coming in, so being able to talk to them in that position would also be very helpful, and hopefully they would be able to convey kind of what the students are telling us to the relevant people again. So.
And yeah, Charlie, same question.
I think relationships with the local community are very important because, it's where you live when you're studying, it's where you go to do things, it's where you spend your time. And if we have open lines of communication with those that are involved with the local community, then it'll, maybe we can hold joint events for, different, like, have schools come down and look at the university, things like that. Having that link makes it as a whole. You don't want, to have the university and then the town separate, because if the town's separate, it might look like something the university's doing, and then that's going to look bad on the university's reputation. You need to make sure that everyone is connected and on the same page.
So you're talking about holding regular meetings with the council, with the local MP?
Yeah, getting their opinions on what we're doing as a whole, and seeing if they've got any ideas that will, collaborations that we do with them.
Okay, excellent. And on a similar level, there was a question submitted here about what your thoughts on the teaching excellence and research excellence frameworks are, and your general idea of national higher education as a whole. Do you see a major issue there that you would like to start tackling in your position, other than rising tuition fees?
I definitely think that students are taking a stance for something, but I don't think that as VP Education we should be necessarily putting our own opinions to it. And so I think that, we obviously have to take how students are responding and how many students are filling out these surveys, and who they're saying is qualified in those surveys. And so I think that, definitely getting the student voice heard and analyzing some of the statistics behind those surveys would be more beneficial.
Charlie?
I agree with that. Although I do think, you have to have an opinion. You have to be opinionated in order to represent the student opinion. There's no point in doing it if you're not going to be able to clarify your points across. In terms of higher education overall, I think there's limiting, creative education is being limited, and you know, I mean, there's not a lot I can do about it as one person, but just to be aware of that and to ensure that there are still creative aspects on campus. Things and like things like that, so that people that have those creative outlets, I mean, for example, being a music tech student, having my creative outlet is something that helps me in my downtime as well as my studies. Say a maths student plays piano and they're stressed about exams. You need to make sure they have the facilities available to be able to go and play the piano so they can de-stress and then potentially help them perform better, which will look better at university.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now some more specific questions which are your manifestos. So, Katie, you talked about extracurricular activities being added to transcripts. Does this include, are they then worth a certain amount of credit?
No, I wouldn't say that they're, we wouldn't like have it just like your academic transcript. My undergraduate university implemented this and it helped a lot of students when creating their CVs, and it's something that a lot of the community, when you are applying for jobs, especially within the community, they would recognize your co-curricular transcript as well as your academic transcript. And so I think it would be very helpful, just specifically, you can log hours, and it would be mainly for students' use, not for the university, but I do think that it's very, very helpful to see what students are involved in, and then you can also look at how many hours students are doing things outside of their coursework, and how students are getting involved, and you can use those statistics to market and advertise for the university.
Sure, but people put their extracurricular activities on their CV anyway. So what's different about the information?
Yeah, so I know just from CV writing myself, whatever job you are applying for, you want it to be specific to whatever you've done with what's relevant to that job position. So I think that this would be helpful to get a broad understanding.
Can I respond?
Yeah, sure.
But there is a skills record on the employability toolkit that you can use to help write a CV that has a list of everything you've done with all the hours that you've spent on it and all the skills that you've from it. So is that not kind of a bit of a redundant point when that facility is already there?
I definitely think it would be different, mainly because it's not tailored specifically to just employability. So it's not, if you're involved in sports, if you're involved in any sort of societies, activities, volunteering, it would be something that is of record of that, not just necessarily like things that you've done for employability.
Well, it's not. Like on my toolkit, I've got the fact that I was a treasurer on Music Soc, I've got my mentoring, everything like that. Everything you can put, anything you do voluntarily through the union, you can put on there and log your hours for.
But it would be more through the university, so basically you would log it, somebody would have to sign off that you've actually done that, and then that way it would be on there. So it's not like you're for your personal use necessarily, it would be somebody would actually be able to signify that you've actually done what you're saying you've done.
But then wouldn't that make the union toolkit redundant?
Not necessarily.
We'll have to move on from that one, but that's an interesting point of distinction. Charlie, you talked about anonymous marking, and obviously there's anonymous marking in the exams as far as I'm aware, but you wanted to introduce it to coursework as well.
Yeah.
And you said specifically this would get rid of bias. But it wouldn't get rid of bias based on the content of the work, would it?
No, but it shouldn't be this way, but some lecturers have favourites. And, even if it's only a couple of % that they're bumping a grade by, it's still not fair, really. And everyone should be marked on the same, same level. Someone shouldn't get like a 68 instead of a 62 just because a lecturer likes them or
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that a bigger issue, do you think, than lecturers marking, this is mainly in the humanities and social sciences, but marking based on bias, not about the person, but about the argument that's being put forward? Do you think the bias in student is greater than the bias in content?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. So how would you tackle? So obviously this would tackle bias in student favourites. How would you tackle bias elsewhere?
Just encouraging lecturers to be more open-minded, I guess. like, everyone's going to pick something different to do an essay on. You can't mark it more just because you like the topic that someone's done their essay on. You have to be, you know, regimented and structured, which is why there's marking framework in place. But maybe just making that a bit more specific as to what deserves what grade. I think, yeah.
So this plays into greater feedback.
Yeah.
That's more satisfying to the student.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And another one for you, just real quickly. You talked about introducing winter exams.
Yeah.
So just explain, is that, why do you think that's beneficial, and is this like across the board, every subject, or would you take it more by department basis?
When department exams and stuff are, obviously do some market research into that.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're doing a 15 credit module in the winter term and then your exam's not till summer, that's a whole other term. You're going to have completely forgotten what you've learned. You're going to have to go back and completely revisit the module, which isn't fair, and I feel like impacts on students' grades. Having winter or January exams means that then they've learnt that, it's done, it's out the way, you can move on to the next thing and focus better. And in the long term, I think it could potentially produce better grades because people are more focused and dedicated to what they're studying at the time of studying it, rather than spreading themselves too thinly trying to revise lots and lots of different topics.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Katie. You talk about more diversity within the curriculum and better representation within curriculums for LGBT communities, for minority communities. Of course, you only have a limited academic history. How are you going to achieve diversity within the curriculum? Shouldn't that be more left to the individual professors who decide what goes on reading lists and stuff?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm going to be the person that like chooses their reading list by any means, but I definitely think that we have a very, very diverse campus population on both campuses, and I definitely think that within our subjects, we should be learning about the world in which we live in. If we have this very diverse community and you're reading about something that isn't really relevant in the community in which you're living and the kind of life that you see outside of the classroom, it's going to be very hard to kind of differentiate the two. So I think adding some diversity in what we are reading, I would definitely just talk to professors, I would talk to the people who decide the reading lists and get to the kind of like figure out how we could diversify some of our reading. So.
Okay. And so, about diversity, you mentioned specifically spaces within campus that are safer or more inclusive. We've got a question here that's come from someone who identifies as an international LGBT student. They are saying, this is obviously an individual case, but they're saying that they have not ever felt uncomfortable in any study space. And they're basically just asking, how would you make a study space more comfortable for people of various sexual orientations or nationalities or different identifications? How would you actually go about doing that?
Yeah, so my main reasoning behind that specific point is that I know from personal experience that my partner was studying in the library and was discriminated against in the library. And so I think that kind of like really got that opinion across that I think we should have spaces that everybody should feel comfortable in, and comfort is different for every person. So while that individual student, like I'm not saying their voice shouldn't be heard, but there are students that do feel uncomfortable in some spaces on campus. And if you can't feel comfortable just being in the space, how are you supposed to study in the space? And so having places on campus where basically we had a diversity center at my undergraduate university, and what they did is you would sign kind of like a terms and conditions policy by signing in, and that's basically saying that you would leave any sort of discrimination or judgment at the door. And so by being in that space alone, you are getting rid of that kind of bias and that discrimination. So having spaces like that on campus where any student can come in, you've kind of signed this contract saying that you will not do that within this space. So having those.
And how would you go about monitoring that? wouldn't that require increasing the staff to oversee what people are, saying in groups or how people are acting? How would you actually, I guess, identify issues that aren't being, like, if someone hasn't reported it, how would you still identify issues of people feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously something that you deal with anywhere. We do have librarians in our library, and so that could be, we can use the staff from our library to monitor that as well. And so I think that that would be an easy, accessible way to monitor that, having somebody that's always kind of on staff in that area. And obviously we would have to control when that is available, that area is available, because it has to be monitored, but I do think it's something that's vital to have on campus.
Okay. And I think this will be one of the last questions we will before we move on to closing statements. Could you just talk a bit about what you see to be lacking from the union right now? Obviously, we had the unfortunate situation where the VP of Education resigned early. Do you see that as something where there are things that haven't been achieved that should have been achieved, so you don't have to focus back on past commitments, and that would take up a lot of time? And then basically just to summarise, what do you think the first thing you'll do when you take office, so to speak? What is the first thing you look to change? So that would be like the most important thing to you guys. Start with Charlie.
A 24-hour library at Medway, and not just in exam times. Like, Templeman's 24 hours, Medway should have a 24-hour library as well. And I think that will help Medway students feel like the union is more engaged with them as well, which, is really significant, because when you've got a campus that's really not engaged, what are you working for? I think that would be... Do
you know why Medway hasn't taken the same decision as Templeman and made it 24 hours?
It's because it's a shared library between us and University of Greenwich, so I think that's got something to play into it with. And where Medway is a more vocational campus, so like my course doesn't have any exams, whereas pretty much all the courses on this campus have exams, but that shouldn't limit when a library's open. I've had people say to me they come down here on the shuttle bus to use the library overnight because that's when they work best, and that's not right. They should have those facilities available to them.
Sure, so you would have to talk to the Greenwich, did you say?
Greenwich and the drill hall staff themselves.
Right. And sort out staffing issues and funding.
Well, I mean, they managed to do it at exam times, so there should be a way to make it throughout the year.
Okay. And yeah, the same question to you, Katie, to finish.
Yeah, I would say definitely it's really unfortunate that Dave couldn't complete the time that he was there, but I definitely think that some of his ideas were very great, and we should still try to implement some of the stuff that he had in his manifesto, because students came to him and gave him those ideas for a reason. But the thing that I would do first, if elected, would be getting transparent tuition. Obviously, students are very frustrated about it. There's, it's a national issue. And so I think getting some transparency with tuition would help not only the current students, but the incoming students to figure out where their tuition money is going.
Okay. Thank you very much to you both. We now have 45 seconds each for closing statements, and I think we'll start with Charlie.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks for listening to the debate. Remember my main points are mentoring, being engaged with student reps, postgrads, anonymous marking, Medway, and tuition fees. If you've got any questions, feel free to follow my Facebook page, which is linked on the bottom of my manifesto, or don't hesitate to get in touch if you've got any questions. Believe in Bond.
Thank you. Round of applause. And to you, Katie.
Thank you so much for listening tonight. I'm a person of action that will work hard for you as students and be your voice of education. I want to be there for you in every way possible, for your time at Kent is filled with transparency in spending, quality in education, and inclusion that matches the student body. If you want to know more, visit my Facebook page. It's at Katie Kyle VP Education, and check out my manifesto on the Kent Union website. Also, make sure to get out and vote, and make your choice for a stronger education.
Thank you. And, Also, thank you to Stuart, who is in Rome doing his MA and is also running but could not be here today. I'm not quite sure if he's going to make a closing statement.
He is. I do have a closing statement. It reads, it's a quote directly from him. It reads, the first thing I would do is introduce the book repository and free academic society memberships, which is an idea from my previous manifesto that Dave adopted. The book repository would make books more accessible for all students, including more obscure books. And while I feel this candidate question time did not represent me equally with my fellow candidates, I'm happy that Kent Union did try to accommodate for me. If you would like to send me questions, please message my Facebook page or personally on Facebook, or you can even email me at sjl70@kent.ac.uk. Vote for me if you are interested in resisting the university's anti-student policies and for someone who is willing to listen to you and stand up for you and your opinions. Please feel free to contact me. Things would be better with Lid Better.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and thanks to the candidates for education, Katie and Charlie. Now we are going to have a 10 minutes break, so set the kettle on and be back with us because we are going to continue with the candidates for activities. Thank you. Welcome back. In the first half, we heard from the candidates for education. And now it's time for activities. So here we have the candidates. Now, let's go with the main video.
Hi, my name is Aaron Thompson and I'm a third year accounting and finance student. Something interesting about me is that I'm a hip hop dancer and I own my own dance company. My main policy is about making sure that people are represented at the top and making sure that their wishes are heard, their ideas are heard, and making sure that they are recognised fully.
My name's Charlie Lees. I'm in my second year and I study politics and IR. I was elected a councillor in 2015. My main policy is to either reduce significantly or get rid of the external speakers policy.
I'm Emily Brogan. I'm in my final year, third year of my Politics and International Relations degree. An interesting fact about myself, I guess I've been the activities officer for Parkwood for the past 2 years, organising socials and events and getting people involved in their college life. My main policy is increasing the awareness of people for their support societies and the recognition that these societies will be getting around campus, and entailed in this is everything from training, like specifically trained committees, to helping with branding and marketing work.
My name is Jordan Regan. I'm a third year sociology student. I love travelling. I've spent 2 months in South Africa volunteering a few years ago, and then I spent my last summer backpacking across Australia for 3 months. My main policy would be to increase funding and sponsorship opportunities for all student groups.
Hi, I'm Yanni. Technically I'm 4th year. I'm on the Politics and International Relations Year Abroad in Japan program. So technically I'm a 4th year, but I'm actually a 3rd year. When I was 17, I was part of a Korean reality TV show called Vida Hanpanseng, which is kind of like the Korea's Got Talent. My main policy is having a student group startup fund. A lot of student groups have a barrier to starting up because of the financial barriers.
If you have any questions, please tweet us at CKT Activities. And now, to the candidates. Stephen, please.
Thank you very much. You guys have 2 minutes to make your opening statements, to introduce yourselves and your platform. And we'll start at this end with Aaron. 2 minutes.
Talent wins games, but teamwork, intelligence wins championships. My name is Aaron T, and I'm running to be your VP Activities. If I am elected in this role, this quote is what I will live and work by. Because I believe, although I have the ability to make great student experience, I think the best student experience can only work through working as a team and working as a unit. Therefore, the theme of my manifesto is teamwork, collaboration, development, and representation. So who is Aaron T? I'm a third year accounting and finance student and owner of a dance academy and the president of the Kent Dance Society, leading 250 students at once. I'm not going to lie to you. When I first came to university, my parents gave me that talk. You know, the talk when they say, keep your head down, do your studies, don't make sure you get the first because you don't come to this university for no debt. But one thing I wanted to do was dance. And I was one of those eager beavers who didn't wait until Freshers' Fair, but as soon as I found out I went to Kent, I looked at their Facebook page to see what's what. I want everyone to feel like this and have the same excitement for student groups. So if I'm elected, I'll focus on 4 main areas. Your union, your way. Making sure that everyone feels represented, ideas are heard, and creating a better student involvement with union events. Aim higher, creating the best student experience through improving the processes that the union offers, and providing better student groups with working with these groups, ensuring training excellence, better networking, and better support from Medway. I am Kent Union, rewarding and recognising all student volunteers, championing ideas for fundraising through RAG, and helping hands, providing support for the new small societies through a new fund, training, and advertising. If you expect anything from me as a VP, expect to see passion and drive, as these are things I think are fundamental for success. So vote for me, RNT, for VP of Activities, and I'll work to make the best student experience. Thank you for listening. Act for Aaron.
Thank you very much. We move on down the line to Charlie. You have 2 minutes opening statement.
Thank you. I can remember coming back to Kent in September and being faced by 1,000,001 different forms that you had to fill in and training sessions. And the one that got me the most was the health and safety training. I understand why it's there, but anyone that runs a society knows that you cannot plan an event without filling in one of these incredibly boring forms, with a likely chance that it needs to be amended later on anyway. There must be a way that we can streamline this. I'm a second year politics and international relations student, and I'm obviously running to be your VP activities. The reason I'm running for this position is because I'm annoyed, quite frankly, at how things are being run from a president of a society's perspective. A large part of my manifesto is based off of personal experiences or policies that, instead of helping societies, hinders them massively. I find it incredibly hard to try and communicate some of the difficulties that I have with my and my society has via email, and then actually trying to go and speak to someone in person is equally as hard. I propose a weekly drop-in session where any committee member can go and speak to a member of staff at their convenience, and the issue can be sorted there and then. There also needs to be some serious thought put into the funding of societies. Some are smaller than others, but that doesn't take away the value that they give to the whole student experience. When I saw advice in applying for the development fund, I was told, and bear in mind that this was money that was going to go towards brewing equipment for beer. You aren't catering for everyone. Some people don't drink alcohol, but isn't that the point of having a special interest group and societies as an actual thing? This may be a minor issue, but I think it goes to show that the union
Thank you, Charlie. The
doesn't
time
help
has
in most
elapsed,
cases,
unfortunately.
but it hinders. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Emily. You have 2 minutes, please.
Hey, hi, I'm Emily Brogan, and I'm obviously running to be your next VP activities. The reason that I am running is simple. I've been so lucky in my 3 years here to have been able to be involved in such a vast variety of societies and different events, and I've been able to throw myself into absolutely anything to which I had an interest. And I want to be able to provide this for absolutely everyone. You know, be they postgraduate, undergraduate, in Medway, Canterbury. I want everyone's student experience to be as fulfilling and as incredible as mine has been. In my time here, I've been Activities Officer for Parkwood Students Committee for the past 2 years, a member of Amnesty International, a member of Kent Cheer, as well as captain of Falconets, and a volunteer with Copperfield. Through this, I have learned leadership and teamwork, and more importantly, I have learned the importance of passion, dedication, and loving what you do. I've also experienced through this the issues that many societies can face. Firstly, I know of the vast and amount of unrecognised work that societies put into every single event, every meeting, and everything that they do. And this is why one of the first points of my manifesto is increased exposure and recognition of all societies. To do this, I want to increase committee-specific training for all different types of societies, as well as each individual role. This will allow each of our societies to work at its best to achieve everything that it wants to, be it big or small, whether its goals are to host more events or to simply grow as a society. We need to be there for them. In addition to this, more emphasis on marketing and branding of these societies, as some often can be overlooked, which is such a shame given the amount of societies that we offer as a university. My second main point on my manifesto is to raise the profile of cultural societies by providing at least a monthly platform for events and arts, so that we can really show everything that this university has to offer in its diversity, which is also incredibly important for incoming students, as they need somewhere to feel like home. Not everyone.
Thank you, Emily. The time's elapsed. So, round of applause for Emily. Next up, we have Jordan. 2 minutes.
So, hi everyone, I'm Jordan. I'm running to be your next VP activities. Since starting at Kent, I've been heavily involved with Kent Union. I've been a member of Salsa Society, Books to Africa, and the Kent RAG events team. I'm also events officer for the Kent Community Action Committee and SSP SSR Stage 3 student rep. I've also worked as a receptionist at the Student Activity Centre, as well as being a society's administrator. These experiences have allowed me to recognise the changes and improvements that need to be made to ensure a simplified and more accessible process for all student groups. Funding for student groups remains a huge issue, with lack of funds restricting activities available. If elected, I will lobby the university to increase funds for student groups and work to secure greater sponsorship opportunities for societies and student media. I will increase the Societies and Volunteering Project Development Fund, as well as establishing a new development fund for student media to ensure that each area of activities is equally represented and given opportunity for improvement. I will commit to simplifying financial processes for student groups and offer support with the implementation of the new online banking system in September. I will ensure that all groups receive sufficient financial training and are provided with clear guidelines to simplify financial processes. I will also enable societies to use their main account money for a wider range of activities. I believe communication between sabbatical officers and student groups should be improved, and so this is why I wish to establish activities on tour. I will personally commit to meeting every society, community action group, student media and college committee to ensure that each group feels supported and represented, including those in Medway. I will also commit to regular Ask Activities events on the Plaza and at the Medway Student Hub to answer any inquiries. Similarly, I'll develop digital Ask Activities videos on the Kent Union website so that students can find answers to common questions quickly. I want to improve the accessibility of resources on the Kent Union website and expand student group promotion. I'll create
Thank you. Your time has elapsed, Jordan. I'm sorry. Last but not least, we have Yanni. You have 2 minutes.
So, hi everyone, my name is Yanni King and I'm running to be your VP Activities. I'm a final year Politics and International Relations student with a year abroad in Japan. And over my 4 years at Kent, the Kent Union has helped me become the person I am today. Vice Chair of the Society Executive, President of the Japan Society, Union Executive Chair, Internationalization Ambassador, co-founder of the Korea Society. Through these experiences, I know what works, what's realistic, and what students want. I am most passionate about creating a student group startup fund. As someone who started a society myself, I have faced the barriers which come with trying to get a student group off its feet. With this fund, groups can advertise themselves and start hosting fantastic events as soon as they are ratified. If elected, I want to construct an events timetable for both Kent Union and GK unions. Student groups will also be able to add their own events to this timetable. It makes it easier for both students and committees to find out where and when the group is meeting. So a big topic this year and previous years, waiting for external speakers' approval has been so big, preventing committees from holding events. I will remove unnecessary barriers by creating a speakers' safe list. This will create greater flexibility in planning and organising events for students. I also want to foster stronger relationships with venues in town. Within the Society Executive, we've had increased applications for development fund to hire out city spaces. But by securing cheaper rates, student groups can hold more off-campus events, and we can use that development fund that they haven't used in other student products. So these are only a few of my manifesto points. You can find the rest of them on the Kent Union website. So if you like them, vote for me to crown the king.
Thank you. Thank you all for your introductory statements. I'm now going to ask you all another question. This is obviously the biggest field of candidates we have in the union elections this year. And I think what voters really want to know is what differentiates each of you. What's actually different about each of your plans? So if you could all just summarise for us briefly why you stand out, what it is that makes you, as an individual, a better candidate for VP activities than the person sat next to you. We'll start with Aaron.
So, as I say, I'm the president of the Kent Dance Society. I've been in the society for 3 years now. I've started from the bottom to the top, gone from the member to a committee member and now the president. So I know all the problems and the struggles you have at every single level, and I know how to fix that. This year as president, I've completely transformed the society, and the union have even acknowledged how well we've done. We've got the most members we've ever had. We've got 4 sponsors, again, the most sponsors that any society has. We've been doing so well this year, got so many trophies, we're doing so well under my leadership. As well as that, as I say, I'm driven and passionate. On my year in industry last year, I started up my own company from the ground up. Going into an area I didn't know, it's very hard to start up an own company. At the moment, we're doing very well. But although you get struggles starting up a company, the drive and passion you have for something is very important to have it successful, and that is exactly what I'll put into this role. So to answer the question, what makes me stand out is that same drive and passion I put into the society, put into my degree, into my business, and I'll make sure that my role as VP is able to give you that perfect student experience through my experience.
Thank you. And Charlie, what makes you different?
I'm going to be very brief about this. Sure. I sort of, from everyone else, I sort of come to this with a bit more of a pessimistic view of the union. I've seen the problems that I've faced when running a society, and my manifesto is based off of the problems and how to fix them. You know, it may seem that I'm being negative all the time, but this is what a lot of societies, and I've spoken to a fair few, feel. And hopefully we can change some of it. You know, whoever gets elected here today, or not today, whenever it is, the 9th, we all have a pretty similar manifesto. And you know, regardless, I think something can be done.
Emily?
I mean, I'm definitely not a pessimist in any way,
No.
so that's definitely a difference. But no, what I would definitely bring to this role is my enthusiasm and my personality, and I think it's so well suited to making sure I can communicate with all societies, all ranges of people. Anyone who has any issue in those societies, I will communicate with and represent them to the best of my ability, and I will put into them, you know, I guess as Aaron has said, so maybe not so different, but the passion that I bring to every single day of my life, and everything that I do, I will bring to every single day of this role, and I will treat every society as my own, as if I was its own member, and just give it my absolute all.
Thank you. Jordan?
I think for me, something that I can bring is my experience of working in student activities and getting to talk to such a wide range of societies and community action groups on campus. Having worked on reception for the last 3 years, I'm the first person usually that societies will come to talk about their frustrations, and that's something that I definitely feel I can bring, in that I don't come from one particular society background, but I've worked with every single society on campus, and I can say that quite confidently, as last year when the union didn't have a societies coordinator, I was sort of asked to step up my role and look after societies until a new one was recruited, and that experience itself gave me so much knowledge and so much drive to improve things. As a student staff member, I can see the frustrations, but don't have the power to make the changes, and that's something that I feel I can bring.
Yanni?
Cool. It's kind of from Jordan's starts, but Jordan, you've worked in the union, but I was a member at the beginning. I was a member of Japan Society, and I worked my way up through various elections. I've won, and to vice chair of the society executive. And as part of the society executive is working with lots of different societies. I was also a cultural forum rep, and I understand they had to tell me what was up with the university, what was up with the union, what was wrong with it, and how we can probably fix it together. So I can bring back all that feedback. I have worked with a variety, not just cultural forums. I am also a member of Swing Dance Society, and there is different problems within different forums. And because of my experience within these different forums, I can sympathise with these groups and come from a different angle in solving problems.
Thank you very much to you all for answering that question. We'll now get a little bit more specific. Aaron, obviously you come from a dance background. That's the society you're currently president of. You talk a lot about flat floor spaces in your manifesto. I take it that is for activities like dance and other such. Where do you see these spaces to be, and how do you do it so that it's not disturbing to others' societies? Say if you're doing it in a hallway or in or something like that, a flat space in the middle of other rooms. How do you utilise that space without being disturbing to others, or do you foresee the need to build proper studios?
So at the moment, the flat floor space we have available is like Elliott Hall, JCR, Darwin Mr. Link, but these places get very heavily booked by university as itself. So this term especially, a lot of societies, not just dance, but circus, salsa, swing dance, like you were saying, even Kent ballroom dance and Latin, we all found it very hard to operate our society this term because, like I say, the university took up a lot of space. So in terms of new spaces, I know the Parkwood development is happening soon. They've secured 2 dance studios in there. That's going to be very helpful for us. But again, we still need more. So what I think it would be beneficial to do is, for example, on Sunday, Kent Dance went to Southampton, and one thing that everyone said is we love the campus there because they have an amazing student union. So what I think the campus is like, what I think Kent campus is lacking at the moment is the fact there's loads of different separate buildings. But what I would like to see in the long term would be an actual student union building, and within that you could have a lot of flat floor spaces within that. And in terms of where that could be built, Parkwood is a very big place. We could use up some of that space and transform the venue as it currently stands into another flat floor space or a lecture theatre or whatever you want there. But I think building something more, as well as the 2 dance studios, is something that we should definitely look into doing.
Okay, thank you. Jordan, you talk a lot about, in your manifesto, about having more sponsors for societies.
Yeah.
Who do you envision to sponsor societies? Is it local businesses?
I think the first step I'd like to take with that is building the relationship between the academic societies and the academic schools. Already this year, the academic schools have provided a lot of funding for academic societies, and I think that would be a good opportunity to start with the sponsorships at the beginning of the year to ensure that they are given funding. In terms of local businesses, I definitely think that there are plenty of opportunities, and I've seen that through the funding and sponsorship opportunities that the sports clubs get from local companies in Canterbury. So I think that would definitely be a place to start.
Is it wise to ask certain departments to give money for academic societies when those departments themselves might be stretched? And obviously the focus of those departments is to cater for students, not activities.
I think building academic communities is really important, and I know that's something that the union itself is really focusing on at the moment. I think that academic societies are a really fundamental part of activities, and that's something that the Changing Lives campaign that's already been started by the current Vice President Activities has recognised, that being part of a society benefits not just your sort of engagement outside of your course, but also is really beneficial for your studying, your mental health. So yeah, definitely, I think it is worth building those relationships.
Okay, fair enough. Charlie, you made quite a big thing in your manifesto about having membership fees. Right now, the base is £5 for membership fees for societies. You can go above that. In your manifesto, you want to go below that, and you specifically say even £0.
Yes.
But you're also talking about having more money for the development fund. So how does that work?
Yeah, so it is a choice, it should be a choice for societies if they want to put their membership fee down to £0. Equally, then when they go and apply for the development fund and they ask why you need this money, and if they say our membership fees are £0, it's not going to work well for them, is it? It's about looking at it from a pragmatic approach. Some societies don't rely on their membership fee to fundraise. They do other events and things like that, and it should be a choice for societies. If they want to make it free membership, then I don't see why not.
So it's about making sure that each society is catered for on an individual basis.
Yes, exactly.
Based on their needs. Okay. Moving on to Emily. You talk about a specific email account, but VPs already have one. What's the difference?
Well, obviously, I mentioned that in terms of, like room, in a large sense of room bookings and, speakers and etc. Obviously, that does not all go directly to the VP activities, all things to do with booking. I think having a designated as well account that's not going to get, lost within other problems will allow more separation of the issues, so they could be easily dealt with.
So are you proposing that room booking then goes through the VP rather than the university booking system?
So through the university booking system, but issues that should be more dealt with on a more personal basis, because obviously it's a large issue that can make a society feel, in a very big way undervalued. And I think, if there's an issue with the university way of doing it, then bring it to the personal level.
But would it not be quite confusing for you to have several email accounts?
As long as I remember all the passwords, I think I'll be all right.
Fair enough. So now we've got Ben in the audience, and he has the microphone, so he will take about 3 audience questions from you guys, and then we'll move back to the candidates. If you could say whether they're for all the candidates or for one individually, that'd be fantastic.
Let's see some hands. Who wants to ask a question to the guys at the front? One right off the bat. I'll have to lean over to you again, sir. Twice in the same evening.
I'm from Medway, as you may have guessed from my question to the education VP, so it's for everyone. Some of your manifestos didn't mention Medway at all, so I wondered what you had plans for, just in terms of Medway, because it is another campus.
So if we could start with Yanni and then work our way down.
Cool. I've actually mentioned Medway twice in mine. One, because I said about the Wednesday bus. It's just branding, can I just say that? Okay, so it will replicate the weekend structure that we have already. That'll be a later bus, so it'll give Medway opportunities to come to the Canterbury campus. I'm not saying that Medway has no activities, because it does have activities and it is growing since the Deep End has opened. And I also mentioned about linking twin societies. So at the moment they're quite fast apart, and these societies aren't that strong in Medway compared to Canterbury. So I think we could learn from each other and what is the best practice. And I'm not just saying it's going to just be Kent societies, because Kent Society of Canterbury that are helping Medway society, because Medway is a different place. So you're going to have to involve GK unions, and maybe we can build a network through that.
Thank you. Same question to Jordan.
Well, I've got a section in my manifesto that specifically addresses students at Medway. I think that my Ask Activities event, which I want to do at both Canterbury and Medway, so that students can drop in, come and see me, answer any inquiries that they have. And that's the same with activities on tour. I mentioned that I want to meet with all the committees, and that includes those at Medway. Specifically to Medway only, I want to work with GK unions and CCSU to build more collaborative events for students at Medway, especially with the opening of the new student hub. I think that's a really good opportunity to advertise and promote societies at Medway and other student groups there.
Obviously, I didn't mention Medway by name in my manifesto, so apologies for that. But most of, I would say, my points are very easily relatable to Medway, and so that's why I sort of felt it was not necessary. A lot of what's on my manifesto is about growing and about helping them to, Medway is expanding and it's growing, and through the increased trainings that I want to see happen, we should obviously see a massive improvement there as well, especially with, as we've been saying, the new student hubs, there's more space for this to happen. And just making sure that all of their societies are as well as equipped as the ones on Canterbury campus, which, yes, I obviously do probably tend to get more attention just as we are a larger campus. But that's not to say that there's not still the same ability to grow and to achieve all of the same things in Medway.
Charlie?
So my manifesto was intentionally non-specific. It's basically, my manifesto is all about union regulations, and hopefully the same thing, it should all be able to be implemented universally. That's my hope. That's the platform I'm running on.
And lastly, Aaron?
So I want to have a bigger presence on Medway. When I first started as president this year, something I wanted to do was to link with the Dance Society Medway, but we had a lot of backlash about that. So what I want to do is actually work with Medway societies to build them up, because there's Dance Society there, they didn't know anything about running the society. So what I want to do is collaborate Medway societies with Kent societies, so they can share knowledge and share how to grow, how to better themselves, how to gain members and retain members, and also how to use the spaces they currently have to make the societies better, to make the societies better, but also find out what they need and lobby that side of Medway to get what they need to help.
Thank you very much. Another question in the
Got
audience?
more questions? Brilliant. I'm way down. Brilliant. Really easy to get the mic to you.
There we go.
So this one's specifically for Emily. So you mentioned you're having a separate email that societies can go to.
Yeah.
Is there not a slight risk that societies can get confused? There's already several different emails that they can email. You've got the VP activities email. You've got student activities. As a forum rep for the society's executive, societies are already coming up to me and saying they're not sure how to contact the union appropriately. Isn't there a risk that this just makes it a bit more convoluted?
I mean, I see what you're saying about, like oversaturation of giving people a million emails and they don't know who to contact. But I would say that's probably more an issue of communication and people not knowing where to turn, as opposed to having maybe too many email addresses. I think having specifically designated inboxes is helpful. But obviously, if people disagree, I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong, and it would obviously be something that would need to be looked into if that is something that people want.
Thank you.
And final audience question before we return.
Anybody else? And no, I think that's everything. So back to you. He says falling upstairs.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ben? So, Aaron, could you just talk a little bit more about the Helping Hands Fund, and specifically you say externally sponsored. Could you just expand on what that means?
Yeah. So, as I say, being part of Kent Dance Society this year, when I first started in my community role, I got the first major sponsor for the society. This year as a leader in the society, we now have 4 sponsors, all that contribute to our society to help pay for costs. And so getting a sponsor is something I'm very good at doing. The Helping Hands Fund will be there to help smaller and new societies to develop, because I want to make sure that no matter how big a society is, how small it is, you will have an amazing experience, and I don't want cost to be a barrier. So in terms of getting an external sponsor, I've seen how other universities are sponsored by major accounting firms like PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, and I would like to try to approach them to try and have an activity sponsor in the same way that Varsity was sponsored by Enterprise. I would like there to be an activity sponsor to help fund something like this. Again, I know that getting a major sponsor like that can take time, but again, like I say, I'm driven and I'm passionate, and it's something that I actually know about doing. I'm very good at talking to people and bringing communication and very formalised as well. And I know how to create plans, and I know how to create programs that will benefit not only us as a society, us as a union, but benefit them. And so being able to collaborate that and doing it, I think is definitely possible.
So obviously a lot of candidates run on a platform that's heavily to do with funding, and a lot of the issues around money don't ever seem to actually go away. Do you think your business acumen, you said how you started your own dance studio, do you think that makes you more realistic when it comes to finances?
Absolutely. You need to be able to budget, of course, that's very important in business, but you need to know where you can draw on funds, how to get more out of your members, or how to give more to your members and make it have actual value, because people won't pay into something, people won't put themselves into something if they don't value it. So with Kent Dance, we provide opportunities to perform, we provide competitions, and they all love that. So it's about understanding what they want and making sure that they are able to pay for that. In terms of the business acumen, then yeah, I know how to run a business successfully, I know how to gain funding for other people, I know how to get loans, I know how to budget, like I say, I know how to raise capital. So it's something that I can definitely help with.
Thank you. Now to Yanni. This is also about funding. So you wanted to introduce a Give It a Go scheme where it's free to try out societies.
Yeah.
Isn't it already free for the first few sessions of nearly all societies?
I mean, it is already free, but people don't know that. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't go to that because, I can't afford that, I haven't paid the membership. But with Give It a Go, it encourages people to go to the activities. Oh, okay, this is free, I can actually go. And it gives you a little bit of a taster of the activities already.
Okay, fair enough. And also, just another one about funding. You talk about city spaces, businesses in towns, how you will lobby to get discounts for events for that. Obviously, those are businesses. They have to cater for all the various costs that goes into that. Why would they actually agree to something where they're not making any sort of profit? How are you actually going to make it appealing for businesses as well as... Obviously, cheaper events is appealing for students. How will you make it appealing for the businesses?
Well, we can give a guarantee system that they will actually use it. Like we have a lot. It has been a trend that a lot of societies have gone out and used venues such as Westgate Hall, and we have seen lots of the societies go on to do poetry slams in different areas, in different bars and cafes. But at the moment, that's only on a society level. If we bring it up to like the Kent Union level and give it more power against it, we can have a bargaining power with the businesses.
Okay, thank you. Emily, also funding. We're talking about money for quite a lot, by the way. You talk about physical merchandise, how you gave the example of Kent Rag and the purple T-shirts, and how that expands the image of a society and is very good and useful. So, I mean, I think, coming from my position in my society, most societies can't afford physical merchandise because you have to buy it in bulk, you have to, put forward a lot of money at the beginning. You don't always know how many people will buy it. Are you going to set up some sort of fund for physical merchandise?
Actually, I was thinking about going about it in a different way. What I did, what we did with Amnesty International last year was we just, you sort of do it yourself. And I think that it's more useful that way. Obviously, it's not the same, like sports have like Rhino sponsorship. It's really easy. You go online, you order it. Something like that wouldn't really work with societies, but I think providing the help, to access certain suppliers who can make them, once you've joined a society and you have your members, they can say, oh, we want this. You can contact a supplier, have someone, for example, in the union who knows, what, just help people, because I think a lot of people don't, they're like, oh yeah, like merch, great, but they don't know how to go about it. They don't know how to, get better deals and actually see it through.
Okay. And Jordan, you talk about increased funds, as do a lot of you. Where does increased funding mean less funding for sports, less funding for departments? How would you actually get more funding without being detrimental to other aspects of university life?
I think one of the ways to do it would be through fundraising. So, for example, last year, Kent Union staff did the Cycle to Paris, which raised a significant amount of funding for the Access to Activities Fund, and I think that's a concept that can really be explored further. So particularly, for example, with my point to establish a Student Media Development Fund, I think there could be several fundraisers throughout the year, get the students involved to raise money for these funds, and I think that's something that students are really passionate about and would be willing to contribute to. In terms of funding for individual societies, again, that refers back to the sponsorship opportunities, and I think that getting sponsorships is a really key way to ensure increased funding.
Sure, okay. So this will be happening at a union level with yourself in consultation with the other SARBs?
Yeah, I'd really like to work with the business development team to organise these fundraisers. They've organised the upcoming fundraiser again to do the Cycle to Paris for Access to Activities, and I think that's an idea that can really be expanded.
Sure. You all mentioned Kent Rag quite a lot, and obviously Kent Rag is one of the biggest organisations on campus. They do a lot of fundraising. A lot of you have talked about increased funding for them, increased publicity for them, increased efforts for Rag, but is it not already one of the, this is to any of you, is it not already one of the most high-profile societies on campus? What would you actually do? Is there anything more you can do for Rag? We'll start with Charlie.
Well, you say everyone talked about Kent Rag. I didn't mention Kent Rag once.
Tell us now your thoughts.
So you're talking about what extra needs to be done?
Do you think there is anything extra that needs to be done?
No,
so that's why you're going to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see Kent Rag everywhere.
Yeah. So you think more time, more advertisement, more funding should go into the smaller society?
No, well, not necessarily. I think Kent Rag's fantastic. But, you're asking what more can we do? I don't think we should necessarily do anything more. It's up to Kent Rag.
So that differs from several of the other candidates who do say more should be done for Kent Rag. And one of you guys who specifically mentioned Kent Rag.
Yeah, so I won't lie. Before I became president, I didn't understand what Rag was. I knew they did fundraising, but I didn't know how they integrated with societies. But being president now, I understand that not only does RAG do their own fundraising, but they help societies actually fundraise themselves. So what I want to do at the beginning of the year, I want to have all committees in one meeting and have given the opportunity to meet RAGs, to meet student outlets, to meet design and print, and allow them to see what outlets are out there to help benefit them. And then throughout the year, I'm going to have termly meetings with the different societies to understand their plans, their progress, and so on. And through that, I'll be able to tell them, hey, have you thought about fundraising? Have you thought about helping this charity? And showing them how RAG can actually help them do so and what things they actually provide. So the tins, accounting, all that. Because societies may be actually put off all of that stuff, but they actually don't understand what RAG can do to help them. So just giving them the understanding of what RAG is, communicating to them, and giving the face-to-face experience with RAG is what I'm trying to change or improve.
Okay, and final thoughts on that subject from one other speaker who would like to do it. Jordan, go for it.
So I've been a part of RAG for the last 2 years,
Yep.
so I kind of feel that I have a solid understanding of what RAG is and what's involved in it. I think that one of the key issues for RAG is the lack of space, and that restricts the opportunities for collaboration with other student groups. And one of the things from sort of working with RAG and talking to them that I think would be really beneficial is to have a dedicated space for RAG to hold drop-in sessions, so that other societies can come to them with any fundraising queries, and that will help to increase the collaboration between Kent RAG and the other groups.
Okay, thank you. And the final topic before we go to closing statements, I want to talk to you about free speech and external speaker policy. A lot of you have mentioned it. I'm going to start with you, Yanni. You specifically talk about having a list of safe speakers. Mm-hmm. Would it not be a lot less time consuming to make a list of not safe speakers? Surely that's a shorter list.
So what I would like to encourage is for groups to actually just apply and say they want this speaker, so we can make a pre-approved list. And even if they don't come, if they're still on the list, so maybe they can come in the future. And with this list, you can review it every 3 months, so you can make sure that they are safe. I mean, you can't, if you say a not safe speakers list, you can't aim to everywhere. I mean, it's too broad. I mean, you want to have people who you actually want, like what societies want, so it's more direct.
Okay, what is your criteria for what a safe speaker is? What's that criteria? Is it just that societies want?
Well, it isn't my personal criteria for a safe speaker. It's actually a safe speaker is not from my point of view what a safe speaker is. It's what the university is, and what is cooperating what the policy is now for what a safe speaker is, and allowing a speaker, but it's keeping them on a list so they can be used in the future every 3 months.
So you don't think the current definition of a person who is acceptable to come to campus should change? You would stick with that definition?
Yeah.
Okay. And Charlie, you talk a lot about having only a 1-week external speakers policy. We've had a question come in that's saying that that's quite unrealistic because of all the various people who approve a guest speaker. Do you think you can do it in a week? And what actually happens within that week?
Yeah, so I think that's part of the problem, that there are so many people that this has to go through to get it through.
Yeah.
You know, if you want someone to come to debating, let's say, and it takes you 4 weeks to try and get them to come along, and bearing in mind, you may have a guest speaker. I'll use the case of Milo Yiannopoulos before everything went a bit mad. He was over from America for a few days. If a society wanted to get him onto campus, just to have a chat to their members, and everyone was okay with it, everyone in the society was okay with it, it wouldn't have been possible because it takes 4 weeks to go through the bureaucracy of the union and university. I understand that as well. And it should all just be it should all be streamlined. And that there are ways to do it. Is that what your next question was going to be?
I'm going to ask, what do you think is the thing that, where's the line between an acceptable speaker and a non-acceptable speaker?
I hate to use the phrase hate speech, but I think when you're inciting violence, extremism, that kind of thing.
Okay.
When you're breaking the law, basically.
Right, so that's all they check in that 1 week, whether they've broken the law.
Well, I mean, it's a bit of common sense, really. isn't it?
And you think the union doesn't have common sense, right?
Oh, I don't know. If that's not clear from my manifesto, I don't know what is.
Emily, just final statement on this matter before we go to closing statements. Where's your position on free speech on campus, safe spaces, and no platforming?
Okay, so I definitely agree that waiting time needs to be much shorter. Sort of agree that 4 weeks you can't, if someone's only here for a couple of days and to organise something quickly, you should have that opportunity, you shouldn't miss out. I do think, however, people shouldn't rush to hate on no platform, because it is something that's very important to our university and making sure that everybody feels safe on this campus. Obviously, it is a controversial issue, free speech, where do you draw the line, who's allowed to speak? But at the end of the day, you need to look out for every single member of your university. Every single person on this campus should never feel attacked or, like they are not in a safe space when we're in a space of learning and a community.
Thank you. I wish we had more time on that subject, but we've run out. So we now are doing 45-second closing statements, and we're going to start with Aaron and then work our way down to Yanni.
Okay. When you leave university, the things you remember will be the things you do outside of your studies. So I want to make sure that your student experience is the best it can be. I hope this question time has allowed you to see how I think and how I work, and has made you feel comfortable with electing me as your VP. At the end of the day, it is your voice which is important here, and it is your voice that I will champion. So although my manifesto has my main points that I will be focusing on, if you feel like there's anything that I've missed out, or during the course of a year that you have a problem that needs my attention, have no doubt that I will back you 100% and that you are my priority. So act with Aaron, number 1 for VP activities. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Aaron. 45 seconds to Charlie to close his statement.
Thank you. I think I've been quite clear throughout the evening that I hold the Kent Union in quite a negative regard. Despite that, I think things can change, and I think I'm the person to do that. I think Kent Union is supposed to be there to help societies, not hinder them in any kind of way, and that's the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. So when voting opens on Thursday, if you want some kind of change, you'll get it in me.
Thank you. Emily.
All right. I'm obviously, as I said, I'm running because I want to provide the best possible opportunities for you. This is about you, not me. So what I promise to you is to bring the same passion that I bring to every day of my life to all of you, and that you will be represented by me every single day. If you bring in Brogan, you're bringing in someone who will push and work tirelessly every single day to make every day of your time here unforgettable. And I hope I've answered any questions you have. If you have any more, please check out my full manifesto on the Kent Union page, my Facebook page, Bring In Brogan, and email me at ejb51@kent.ac.uk or message me personally on Facebook. Thank you.
Jordan, same line.
So I'd firstly like to say thank you to everyone for listening to my ideas tonight. I hope that my responses to the questions asked have convinced you that I am the right candidate to take on this role. Having been involved with student activities for over 2.5 years, I'm confident that I have the experience in working with student groups to represent your views as Vice President Activities. I believe my manifesto accurately reflects the feedback I've attained from student groups and highlights the improvements needed to be made to enhance the student activities experience. Equally, I recognise that there's always more to learn, so I'd always be willing to listen to feedback and new ideas from groups. So if you do have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to KTV for broadcasting this event and for Kent Debating Society for hosting.
Lastly, Yannick.
Okay, thank you for being here and tuning in where you are at home. Student activities means a lot to me. Without the opportunities the union has given me, I wouldn't have met loads of people from different backgrounds. I wouldn't have got my experience that most employers will ask me about, and I would have never met some of my lifelong friends. I had the passion, I had the drive, I had the vision to be your VP activities. I want to be there for students. I want to be the voice for students. And ultimately, I just want to help students. I've discussed a few of my manifesto points tonight. But if you want to find out more, you can access my full manifesto on the Kent Union website, or you can just find me on Facebook by searching King for activities. So thank you again for being here tonight, and remember to crown the King.
Thank you. Once again, a big thank you to everyone for attending, to all the candidates for activities and also for education. And I now hand it back.
And thank you to Stephen and to all the candidates. Well, it's coming to the end, but I hope that we made now for you easier to know who you want to choose. So remember that you need to vote by the 9th of March and that you can vote whether it's in the Kent Union website or just go to venue. Thank you very much, and we are going to the deep end in Medway tomorrow, so stay tuned. Thank you.